Malalai Joya has been described as the bravest woman in Afghanistan. She was suspended from the Afghan Parliament for saying it was worse than a zoo. She had accused her fellow MPs of being corrupt, greedy, murdering warlords. Now living in hiding, she continues to fight for women's rights because she says life in Afghanistan is as bad, if not worse, than under the Taliban. Malalai Joya, welcome to Hard Talk. Why do you say that life in Afghanistan is worse now than it was under the Taliban?
Because the situation of Afghanistan, unfortunately, is tragic and goes toward disaster as same like a Taliban period. Because US and its allies brought in power the North Alliance fundamentalists who are mentally same like Taliban but physically has been changed. And that's why today Afghanistan goes toward disaster, and we have a mafia system in Afghanistan. And the situation of the woman especially getting worse, and the most of provinces even it is like hell.
There is, though, a democratic system in Afghanistan. It is democracy that has seen these people that you have been very critical of, and you have been critical in the past of them, and that is why you were thrown out of parliament. They were elected by your fellow Afghans, just as you were. Is this not the democracy that the Afghan people want?
Democracy, I think the elementary meaning of democracy is government of people for people. It's not possible to have democratic election under the shadow of gun warlordism and drug lordism, as we experienced in our country regarding parliamentary election. Majority seats of parliament today belongs to warlords, drug lords, criminals that unfortunately today they are in power and they are law brokers. And that's why today in Afghanistan we have jungle law. But it is true that some Democrat like me and few other men and women that we can count them, they found way in parliament as well, just because of the showcase of democracy of US to deceive great people around the world that there is democracy. For example, some Democrat also, for example, they are in the parliament, but there is no freedom of speech inside of parliament, which is elementary part of democracy. There is no freedom of press. And also regarding the last law that about Shia women that this fundamentalist parliament made 4,000 times proved again that this is not democratic parliament.
I'll just explain that the law that you're talking about is one that President Hamid Karzai has signed but is under review, which is for the Shia minority, which is just 10%. But reportedly says that women cannot refuse sex to their husband unless they are ill, and cannot leave the home, cannot go to work or cannot go to the doctor unless their husband allows them to. But that is under review. I wonder if you think that law will go through.
Yeah, this law unfortunately has been signed by Hamid Karzai, as his government is a puppet government, and it is an example of no justice in Afghanistan, as three forces today in Afghanistan infected with the viruses of fundamentalism. And it's another example that proves that those who are in power, most of them, how much they are brother and creed of Taliban. Mentally they are same. It is the same laws that during the Taliban period that made against women. And also before of domination of Taliban from 92 to 96, misogynist fundamentalist when was in power, they made this kind of law. And today again, under the name of this so-called democracy that they are talking nowadays about women's rights, they are making this kind of laws, and it is easy for them and try to put it in practice.
But Malalai Joya, a quarter of the politicians that you are so critical of are women.
Yeah, it is true that from 249 seats, 68 belongs to women. But most of these women are not real representatives. We have some fundamentalist women as well in the parliament, those who are in power. Just they have symbolic roles, and as the warlords wish, they do. They vote, and even they stand up against women. As once I remember inside of parliament, a fundamentalist woman threatened me to date and told me that if you do not sit silent, I will do something against you that no man dare to do. And just they give chance to these women to found in parliament to receive great people around the world. Let's see, they are in the parliament, even more than some European parliament, a lot of women are in power. But unfortunately, again, I stress on my comments that majority seats of parliaments belongs to warlords, drug lords, and criminals.
Okay,
who
well,
destroyed
explain to us.
Afghanistan, and today they are in power.
Can you explain to those outside Afghanistan what it is like for a woman living in Afghanistan now?
If I say the life is like hell, even not enough to explain the catastrophic situation of the women of my country. Even it's not like a human. They do not have human life. Day by day situation is getting worse. For example, gang rape of the young girls and women, domestic violences, also forced marriages. Their security is another problem.
But before you go on, give us, you're reeling off a load of things. How common are these sort of things that you're talking about? How common is gang rape? How common is forced marriage?
Yeah, it is getting increased day by day. Even it was not that much as it is today in the history of Afghanistan. For example, alone in the northern provinces of Afghanistan in the 6 months of 2008, as media gave report that 12 rape cases happened in the northern provinces of Afghanistan. 14 years old like Bashira, 12 years old like Samia, 5-year-old baby in Mazar Sharif. And this list can be prolonged. That recently, even in Kabul, last week we found a died body of 14-year-old Shugufa. That these fundamentalists killed her and threw the died body of her in the garbage. And many shocking examples like this I have. That, for example, lots of women, they burn themselves in the hospital of Herat. That the doctor gave report 48 women recently they burned themselves. Even in 8th of March, that while the women around the world they are celebrating this day, in Afghanistan 3 women they burned themselves, as they would rather die than live.
We've had a promise.
No justice. Nobody listened to their voice.
Well, does it not then come down to putting an effective judicial system in place, to improving the civilian effort? We've had a promise from President Obama, along with the extra troops he's sending, that there will be a dramatic increase in our civilian effort. And he's talking about, alongside the troops, sending in educators, building schools, sending lawyers. Does that not make you more hopeful?
You know, the 7 years that during the Bush administration, they promised to Afghan people as their women will go to schools. I don't know that there will come security, and they send more troops. And as they brought in power the enemies of women's rights, human rights, these values. That's why it was the main reason of the wrong policy of the Bush administration, because it's not possible to bring democracy, women's rights, human rights with the enemies of these values. Now, unfortunately, Obama's administration followed the footpath or the wrong policy of the Bush administration in Afghanistan, as he wants to send more troops in Afghanistan, which will bring more conflict and war in Afghanistan, as now he wants to decorate some barbaric Taliban like Mullah Omar, and also a fascist party like Gulbuddin Hekmatyar.
What would you have him do?
Bring them in power.
What do you want President Obama to do?
First of all, if Obama administration is honest for Afghan people, apologize for the past strategy of U.S. government, which was a war crime in Afghanistan, and they killed civilians
what do you
under
want
the
him
name
to do
of Taliban.
What do you want him to do to make life different in the future?
The only alternative is the democratic-minded men and women of my country. Some democratic organizations, we have intellectuals, we have modern parties, but they are here in Afghanistan, no honest job for them. Government do not support them. And if Obama is honest for Afghan people, first of all, change this policy and try to support these democratic-minded people, and put pressure on countries, neighbor countries like Iran, Pakistan, Russia, Uzbekistan, Uzbekistan, etc., who's supporting Taliban and also these North Alliance, and also stop the support of these North Alliance fundamentalists and not negotiating with Taliban, these terrorist people. These terrorists also come in power, the situation will be more bloody, more worse.
Would you